What's up, everybody? This is your girls, Carice
and Crystal,
aka Millen Twins. So it is Friday, you all. We made it.
We didn't do our intro.
We didn't.
We did it so long.
We didn't
do it again. Start over. Take 2.
What's up, everybody? This is your girls, Carice
and Crystal,
aka Millen Twins. Yes, that wasn't it.
Right now,
you guys are tuning in to the Millen Twins Highlights Movement Show on IntellectualRadio.com. DJ Crystal is in the building.
I'm taking cash apps too.
Go ahead.
So let's talk about this past weekend.
This past weekend was amazing.
My goodness. So we just had our first 2019 Millen Twins Educators Awards, and it was bananas. It was exciting.
It was.
I mean, first, let's give a shout out to the people who made this possible.
Definitely.
Carice, shout out to you.
Thank you.
Good job, Millen Twins.
I try.
But shout out to 1 Hour 1 Vision Production Company. Oh my God. He had a 70-inch TV with a 4D logo that said Millen Twins. The stage,
had the whole thing,
the whole camera crew. They were very professional. A whole bunch of black boys doing their thing.
Yes.
We say thank you for everything you've done. Because of you. It was amazing.
It was. And shout out to DJ Flo.
DJ
Flo
was
on the ones and
building.
twos, and Miss Tangia for the catering. The food was amazing.
And Carmi Cakes.
And Carmi
had
Cakes.
The sweets.
Yes.
The sweets. We had Miss Tamiki Allen who helped coordinate it. So shout out to Tamiki. She came over and coordinated with us and fussed at us and all the above. Let me help. You know, Carice and I don't ask for help, but we thank you for that. Shout out to Kenneth Sean.
Yes.
He had everybody in the building dying. You know, that was his last day of being the center. It was what he kept telling us because he was ordained the next day. So congratulations to Pastor Kenneth Sean.
Come on, Bishop.
Pastor. Yeah, that's right. And She's Jazzology was on the red carpet interviewing the awardees.
And shout out to Ebony Shanae, who she gave a wonderful speech.
She did. And you guys looked amazing. You dressed the part. We said black tie, cocktail style, and everybody had on gowns, ties. You guys, it was amazing. Yes. So because of the amazing turnout, we had a young man who came up to us and he's sponsoring us for next year. He offered $2,500 for the next event. Just came up to the stage. He said, I didn't even know what I was coming to. He was the owner of one of the schools. I didn't know what I was coming to. He worked with Tanita Berry. Shout out. She was one of the awardees. She brought him to us and he said, I didn't know what I was coming to. I just knew she was getting awarded for something. And when I got here, I was excited to see what you guys are doing for educators because no one is doing this. And he wrote, he's giving us a $2,500 check. So thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
For following in a vision that he has given us.
And shout out to the Connection for letting us hold our event there. Miss Michelle and her husband, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Definitely. Anything else?
Oh, it was our birthday week.
It was.
Of course.
We turned
21.
21.
For the 10th time. Ain't God good?
He let you turn 21 10 times.
He would.
10 times.
Don't even look like it.
Don't look like it.
No, we thank God for letting us see another year, 36 years. Thank God for that.
36 years. So we have a special guest tonight.
She's so gorgeous.
So as you guys are watching the video, as you're listening, tuning in, we need you guys to share the video. This spectacular lady, Dr. Dr.Jones, is amazing. I think we first met her at the awards from last year. What was it called? Girl, I just went blank. What was it? Buzzing. Yep.
She got the whole book.
I got the whole book. Buzzing Off Awards. Yes. And she told her story, and I mean, it was amazing.
It was.
So you guys have to share the video so that you guys can hear what she's going to be talking about.
Right.
So what we're going to do is
take a 2-second
music break.
And when we come back, we're going to have the beautiful Dr. Jones in the studio. Stay tuned.
Are y'all ready to get this show started? 3, 2, 1, Going live with the Millen Twins on the Millen Twins Highlights Movement Show on IntellectualRadio.com.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Grease, a.k.a. Millen Twins. So if you're just joining us, you are tuning in to the Millen Twins Highlights Movement Show on IntellectualRadio.com. Thank you for the right note today.
Yes, because I couldn't hear myself at first. I was about to be like, hello. Okay, I'm good. So you guys can see in the middle of us, we have the beautiful Dr. Jones in the building.
We do.
How are you feeling?
I'm great. And you?
We're good.
Girl. It's summertime, so we're excited.
We are.
Believe me.
It's okay.
Y'all got this guy rolling.
It's 90 in here every Friday. Every Friday. And we like it. Because, you know, when you get all that snow and hail, and you just take it in. Just take it in. It's okay. Because, you know, usually you go back outside and it's like -10.
Exactly.
So we'll be excited about it. But we're so happy to have you on the show.
I'm honored to be here.
And before we get into the deep conversation, we're going to go ahead and play this game called the 2020. I did say it right this time.
The 20.
Okay, there you go.
20.
It's one of them.
The 2020.
It's time for the 2020 with the Millen Twins, right here on IntellectualRadio.com.
So, young lady, you have 20 questions to answer, and you have only 5 seconds to answer these questions. If you don't answer these questions within 5 seconds, we don't have our buzzer today, so we're going to hear.
Never have a buzzer.
You're going to hear that, okay?
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. What do you find yourself doing a lot these days?
Sleeping.
If you could live in any sitcom, which would it be?
Different world.
What's the one thing you can never live without?
Jesus.
Yes. What was in your high school locker?
Oh, no. Skip that one.
Okay. It was all my books because I ain't take none of them in the class. They were too heavy. How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Loving, compassionate, and restorative.
If you had your own talk show, who would be your first 3 guests?
Ooh, Idris Elba.
Yes,
that's one.
That's all we need.
I'm gonna have to add my husband because I don't want no problem.
Oh, yes, please
don't
add.
trouble. Oprah. That's 3.
Oh, yes. Who do you look up to the most?
Oh, my mom.
If a movie was being made of your life and you could choose the actress to play you, who would you choose?
Oh man. I don't know.
I know. I have to think too. Okay, phone call or text?
Text.
Netflix or date night and chill? Nope, that's backwards.
Netflix
or date night.
Right.
Netflix.
Would you rather be completely invisible for one day or be able to fly for one day?
Invisible for a day.
Harold's or what's the other place?
Uncle Remus.
Remus.
Harold's.
Thank you, girl.
Rich friend or loyal friend?
Loyal.
What is your real favorite movie?
Love and Basketball.
Would you rather find your true love or a suitcase with $5 million?
Come on now.
Husband, just let her answer.
I want to
take the money, girl. You want? Oh, that's cute.
The money will come.
You right.
What is the exactly? But that's safe. That's safe. What is the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning?
God is.
Who do you? Oh, we did that one. All right. Okay.
Last one.
Okay. No, it's not the last one.
Oh, sorry.
Most important in a partner: intelligent or funny?
I really landed.
Breathe. It's okay.
Funny.
Funny. Movie or free time?
Free time.
All right. Last question. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Can you make any prediction about anything exactly 1 year from now?
That you will see me go global.
I know that's right. Speaking into existence. That's it.
So this is what we're going to do. We're going to read a little bit about Shaniqua Jones. So as you are listening to all about Miss Jones, I need you guys to share the video. If you have questions that you would like to ask her, Carice, what is that question? The answer, the phone number.
Phone number.
Yep.
The heat getting
it's
to
the
her.
heat.
Don't have a heat stroke in here now. The number you can call is 708-223-8953. If you have any questions, you can call us at 708 223-8953.
All right, so Dr. Shaniqua Jones enhances experiences through collaborative efforts. This quest is continued through Shaniqua's academic, professional, and personal gains. Today, she uses her collection of experiences as a foundation for her restorative justice trainings that she provides to schools and community organizations. Her passion for restorative justice has afforded her the opportunity to speak and present across the Chicagoland area on the proactive and reactive approaches regarding restorative practices such as building meaningful relationships, promoting accountability, and operating in a safe environment. She published her first book called 12, a memoir to my younger self in 2016, and co-authored 2 publications on entrepreneurship, including The Entrepreneur Within You and Success, Failure, and Recovery. She's doing a lot of great things.
You have an amazing resume.
Yes,
Thank you.
amazing. So okay, Chris, go ahead. Because I
ahead.
always
Go
ask.
ahead.
Okay, good. Thank you. So how did you get to this point of restorative practice?
So I have to give a great shout out to one of my mentors. His name is Chip Coldren, Dr. Chip Coldren. And I met him when I was going through like some turmoil in my life. And oftentimes you think when you're going through so much that it couldn't get any worse, and it got worse. And I'm like, well, I think I'm doing the right thing. So why, certain things happening to me. And so when I started to take my education seriously, after going back and forth to school a million years, I was introduced to restorative justice through him. And when I was sitting in these classrooms, and when I was obtaining my bachelor's and my master's, it was more like, this sounds like the life application. Like, how can I apply the things that have happened to my life to when I write these papers about theories and frameworks to help me better understand what restorative justice is as a way of life and not just about a practice or a philosophy. And so that's how I was introduced to restorative justice through him. And he hired me as his teacher assistant and teacher aide. And so I was, basically shadowing him, and everything that he was doing in the classroom, I was able to just take those nuggets, and here I am.
Wow. Dr. Jones now. Now, in your own words, Dr. Jones, who are you? In your own words.
Let's move this up so they can hear you real good.
I got you. Honestly, I'm a restorative soul. I've had the opportunity to share everything I've gone through from the time of the age of 15 to the age of 26. I lived through a hell, so, I'm a preacher's kid, born and raised Church of God in Christ. And if you're familiar with Church of God in Christ, you had to wear dresses down to your ankles. You couldn't wear
no makeup.
Like, only thing, to this day, I think I'm addicted to Carmex because of Church of God in Christ. That's about all I can wear.
Exactly.
And so, it got to a certain time in my life when I turned 15 and was starting to, feel myself, and the boys was, recognizing who I was. And I'm like, hey, they like, hey, I'm like, well, what it is? And so, with that came along a lot of issues because I didn't have no good sense of self. And so here I am today, knowing exactly who I am and who I belong to. And it has made a really huge difference in my life to make sure that everything I've gone through is not for me, it's for someone else.
So being a PK, a preacher's kid, because we grew up around a lot of PKs, and I was like, y'all the worst kids ever. Acting out. Look, bad influences. But no, what were some of the challenges that you faced as being a preacher's kid?
So one of the things I recall, I went to church 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And it got a point in time where I started lying because, I grew up in the suburbs, but we went to church on 60th and Champaign. And my mom didn't believe in taking the expressway, so we would take Halsted all the way from 163rd off of cars to 60th and Champaign. Yeah. And by the time I got to a certain age when I was feeling myself, I would lie to my friends like, yeah, we finna go turn up in the city. Lying. I was turning up, but it was for the Lord.
Right.
But it was challenging too because I couldn't understand how when I'm in school, my mom and my family would tell me, when you don't understand something, you ask the teacher, ask questions. But then when I'm in church and I don't understand the word because it's a King James version with thee, thus, thou, though, and all.
I still don't. I'm 36.
And I was like, Mom, what that mean? She was like, And I'm like, what you mean? Like, because you tell me if I don't understand something. Exactly. But now you telling me don't question authority. Like I'm confused. So how about I walk away from all this and y'all can have y'all religion to yourselves? And then it was a matter of, I'm a visual learner. So you tell me you want me to believe in something I can't see. And that was my biggest challenge because when I had questions, it came off as me being disrespectful. When in actuality, I just didn't know. And so, I became a rebel overnight.
And I think a lot of youth face that because they like, okay, you're not explaining to me. I don't understand what you're reading and all of this. And if it's more people out there that would break it down to young people, then they'll be able to accept, who Jesus is instead of like, oh, nope, don't ask me questions. Like you said, they felt like it was being disrespectful because you're answering or asking questions.
Or even being able to apply it to their life, you know, because if you telling me leave that and I'm like, what are you lost me 10 minutes ago and I'm no longer paying attention.
Just like Shakespeare.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And how do you stand strong? You know, you get to high school. High school is like the foundation of realizing who you are, realizing about friendships, your identity, your sexuality, all these different things that shape you into who you are. And so when you tell me that I should abide by the word and I don't understand how the word applies to my life, I can't, like when the boy be like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm a virtuous woman. And if you turn to Proverbs, they not trying to hear that.
Proverbs 20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how does that you growing up that way and you having your daughters and your kids, how has that changed? Do you find yourself doing some of the same things that your parents did?
You know, I'm glad you say that because my two oldest children are 18 and 20. Patricia is 20, Patrick is 18. I had them when I was 17 and 19. And then I have my next set of children, Ayana, Ariel, and Sanaa, who are 15, 14, and 12. They pretty much are raised a little different than my two oldest were because I really didn't know what restorative justice was. I didn't understand, you know, I didn't accept God as my Lord and Savior until later on down the line. And so I struggle sometimes because I don't want to be too strict and I don't want to be too lenient. But then you're talking about in a day and age where when we were growing up, the most I had was a pager. I may have had a cell phone here and there, but for the most part, I didn't have the access that our children have today. And so I find myself struggling at times. Now, I will say they come to me about everything, even some things I'm like, I would never say that to my mama. But I'm proud because I take pride in the idea that I have shown them and I have modeled the way that I don't care what it is, come to me. And I'm not going to necessarily apply the Bible, but I am going to say, you know what? Let's pray about it. And I'm not going to always be there for you. So let me teach you how to pray for yourself. So I do raise my children quite differently. We don't go to church every Sunday because I just, you know, I've had my struggles with church. Because when I found out I was pregnant with my oldest child, I was pretty much ostracized. And so I'm like, this is all I'm giving my life to this place.
Right.
And you mean to tell me this is where redemption happens and you tell me I can't come back?
And I was just getting ready to ask you that. How was that?
That was tough, especially because the pastor at the time, who later on became a bishop, I mean, I adored him, not worship him to the point where I felt like he was my God, but mind you, he was a constant factor in my life, and he was more like a godfather. And so, you know, I would go with him on trips when he had speaking engagements. I would go and read the word for him before he preached. I would sing. And so I was put on this pedestal. And so I disappointed a lot of people. But then I realized as the older I got, I think for me, the biggest disappointment was the disappointment I had within myself. And so a lot of times when I take the time to reflect, it wasn't about what other people did. It was like, I knew better. And when you know better, you're supposed to do better. And I didn't because I wanted to be this rebel. Because I wasn't getting recognized for all the great things I was doing. When I did something wrong is when I got the attention. Right. So bad attention is better than no attention. And therefore, if my mama said yes, I'm going to say no just because it just felt good in the moment. Because I felt like I was destroying her life when in actuality I was destroying mine. And hers too, to a certain extent. Right. And so, yeah, it was very difficult. And I've been very open with my children too, because I explained to them the importance of a mother sharing her journey with her children. I don't want my children to ever find out anything about me from someone else. Because I want them to know when I wrote the book about my life, I wrote the book a whole year before I even released it to the world. So everyone that I'm close to will have an opportunity to say, like, this is too much for me. And I've had some of my family members like, you know, we don't roll like that. You putting too much out there because that's my life. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm not putting names out there, but at the same time, you know who I am. You the context clues are there for you to figure out who it is. And so, you know, being in the Black community where things that happen behind closed doors, like you in Vegas, whatever happens to the stage, you don't put this in no book, and you make us look a certain way when you put your truth out there, but it's my truth. And I think that's where I found my deliverance.
I was going to ask, what do you want your readers to get from your book?
That you could be delivered. I don't care what circumstances have happened. And like, you know, the way we met and I shared my story, and I shared in like in the least amount of time possible. But when you're talking about being a teen mom, lack of resources, poverty mindset, poverty, you know, community, being raped twice, sexually assaulted, I had a failed suicide attempt, and it was just like one thing after another. Cervical cancer survivor, domestic violence. I probably could wear a ribbon for just about anything. And a lot of agencies reached out to me like, Doc, can you come do that? I'm like, man, I'm ribbing out this month.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, dang,
no more ribbons.
Right, no more ribbons. But at the same time, I don't care what you're going through in your life. You can overcome. It just has to come to a point in time where you want to learn how to be proactive. When you see your life going in a certain way, you can change it. But a lot of times what happens is when you feel depleted and you don't have a good sense of self, you think that this is what your life is supposed to be. And so when I was 26, I laid there dying on the gurney, giving birth to my last and final child, Sanaa. And that's when I had my moment. I laid there because I recall the doctors calling my mom, who's my emergency contact, to ask her who life to save, because we may not be able to save both. And I recall my mom, mind you, she had me at the age of 40, and this is my 26th birthday. So she's 66, body is ailing, having her own medical conditions and things happening to her. So she couldn't come to the hospital. I remember her saying before they put me under the knife that if she was to pass away, please allow me to stay on the phone so I can hear her take her last breath.
Wow.
In that same note, I remember her saying, the blood of Jesus. The blood of Jesus,
that's right.
The blood. And she kept saying it to the point where as I was going under, that's the last thing I recall. And when I came to, I had an emergency C-section, gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and I named her Sanaa Grace. But before they took me under, it was funny and not funny. But you know how when you get into situations, you pick God up and put him down when you get ready. And when things are going great, you're like, oh, gee, I did this on my own. And then at the same time, when you in the jam, you're like, man, God, if you get me out of there, I swear, just one more. I ain't even going back.
I promise I'm going to church Sunday.
Yes. And so when I laid there, I remember growing up in the church, and they say, when you get ready to go home to glory, you see the light. And when I closed my eyes, I saw darkness, and I got scared. Like, you see how I'm melting up there from the light? I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I can't be going out.
I was looking at the nurses like, I can't do this. Like, something got to give. I'm like, look, I couldn't even hardly talk anymore. I'm like, and I couldn't even think of the sinner's prayer. That's how bad it was. Like, you know, when you're in a panic, the things that you typically would know about heart, I couldn't think of anything. So I'm like, to whom I just in all that ways.
Right. They all mix, all the scriptures mixed up.
I know you hear me. Right. And so as it went from being very shallow to me asking God, like, you know what? I don't know where this is going, but I'm asking you, don't let me go like this. Don't let me survive. Let me live. Let me thrive. Let me raise my own children. Let me, I understand I made some mistakes. I know I've been through this, that, and the other, but I'm asking you to please save me. Don't save me from anybody else. Save me from me, because I'm getting tired. I'm tired, I'm depleted, and I can't go through this anymore. And before you know it, I even said, I was like, I might still turn up a little bit.
Right.
I might still curse every once in a while, but just help me. And I promise you, I kept my promise. And I made sure that whatever I've ever gone through, I shared in my trainings. I share with the children I serve. I'm a full-time dean at Chicago Collegiate Charter School.
Okay. Shout out.
Yeah, show Roseland some love.
Roseland.
Yes. Roseland. We actually
down the street from me. I'm at Olive Harvey College.
Yeah, actually, we just started a program with you guys.
Really?
Like a dual program. So when our high school students are there in AP classes, they can take college classes there. So,
that's amazing. Definitely.
So that's a deep question.
Go ahead.
So you said that you have been raped and you've been through domestic violence. Have you talked to your children in debt about that, or are you overprotective of them, being that you went through these situations on your, yourself?
I'm not overprotective.
You're not overprotective?
Not at all. So it gets touchy sometimes because like my 20-year-old, she's dating. My 15-year-old, she's dating. And my 15-year-old is like, I'm like, okay, you shapely.
Right.
But let's have these conversations early on. So I didn't wait till they start being interested in men or young boys, whatever the case may be. We have these candid conversations because for me, who I am in public is who I am in private. And my kids will tell you that. And they'll let you know, like, I'm like, so
right.
When it's all said and done, I mean, we could hee and ha ha all day. But I see how you looking at this. I see how you changing your clothes and how you switching it up. So what's really going on? We have those real, I don't sugarcoat the language they use in school is the language I'm using at home. Because I want to be able to reach you. And I want you to always feel like if I can't tell anyone else, I definitely could tell my mom.
Right.
And then for me, I had my mom. But the thing about me having my mom was more like when I I came to her about feeling a certain way about boys, and I think I might be ready. There was no such thing as me coming to tell my mama that. She'll be like, well, let's sit down and watch No More Sheets by Juanita Bynum.
Oh my God. Yes, we do, girl.
And she just sat me there. I was like 15. She sat me there in front of the TV, and I'm just like, okay, so is this about me washing laundry? Or like, I'm confused.
Right, exactly.
And by the time she wanted to have the conversation with me, I wanted to tell her I was pregnant already. Yeah. And so I mean, I thank God that I've been able to share my journey with my own children, so they know that you're gonna always find a safe space in me.
Definitely. So what we're gonna do is take a quick 2-second music break. So you guys continue to share the video, and when we come back, we're gonna have more with Dr. Jones.
Cause you're not mine, can't deny it. No, you hear me talking, babe. Love me now or I'll go crazy. Oh, sweet thing. Don't you know you're my everything? Oh, sweet thing. Don't you know you're my everything? I will love you anyway. I will love you anyway.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Screeze.
And Crystal.
AKA
Millen Twins.
So if you're just tuning in, you are tuning in to the
Millen Twins Highlights Movement Show on IntellectualRadio.com. So we had a little bit of technical difficulties, because it's our heat, whatever. It's okay. But we're back. We're back with Dr. Shaniqua Jones. She's telling her story. She has amazing things going on. She has a book, and it sounds like we have a caller coming on. So as you guys are watching and you guys are listening, make sure you share the video. She has some gems that she's going to put on us, and a lot of information that can be helping someone who may be going through the exact same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a caller. Hi, thank you for calling the Millen Twins Highlights Movement Show. Who are we speaking to?
Dr. Jones' oldest daughter, Patricia.
Hello, beautiful. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. What would you like to say? Do you have a question? You want to say something to your mom?
I just want to say, hey, and we have been watching at home on everything, YouTube. My sister just walked in and she's laughing. We've been watching on everything. I want to say, hey, and we love you and you're doing good.
Awesome. So how proud of you are you of your mom?
I am beyond proud of her. Everything that she is saying is honest and true. She's talked to us about everything that she has said tonight, and we just love her so much and appreciate her.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, you got your mommy tearing up and it's 100 degrees in this room.
Yes.
Oh, no, don't be crying.
Well, we thank you for listening and tuning in. Your mom is amazing. We had to have her on this show. So we're so grateful for her to be here, and we're definitely bringing her back. You guys got to come too, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She sounds like a little kid.
Yes, is she? So you're making the difference in your own family. So you've gone through so many different things: domestic violence, and what else was and being raped. And there's someone who's watching and listening right now who may or who has gone through this,
or maybe still going through it,
and still going through it. What can you say to them?
And so, how can I say this? I always trusted and believed in God, even when verbally I said I didn't. Mainly because just give you a little bit of the background, when I turned 20 years old, I realized that there was like these emotions I had and I couldn't explain it. And I'm like, okay, I would go to the doctor and they said, have you ever heard of postpartum depression? Because, you just had 2 children pretty close together, back to back, and you're young. I was like, no. And I stopped when she said that. I stopped going to the doctor because in my mind, I'm like, it sounds like it's a problem. And I don't want to be labeled as crazy. So therefore, I'm going to just stop going. And I stopped going. And then one night, I just couldn't take it anymore because it was like, I don't want to live, but I don't want to die either. If it was a such thing as like, can I just leave the world temporarily till I'm ready to face my issues? Because here it is. I have 2 children. I'm the youngest of 4 children. My brothers, and I'm the only girl. And my brothers were 13, 15, and 17 years older than I was. So we pretty much was raised differently because my mom and dad were 40 and 45 when they had me. And now that they're up in age and, having their own physical and mental and medical challenges, I kind of got away with murder. And so when my mom decided to leave my dad and my brothers are growing up, leaving home and starting their own lives, I didn't understand, like, how is my family just falling apart like this? When in actuality, they weren't falling apart. They were just growing up. But I didn't get that because I was so selfish, because anything I wanted, if my mom couldn't do it, my daddy could. If my daddy couldn't do it, my brothers could. I always had everything I wanted. And so when they left, it became a sense of pride for my mom to ask for help. So when there would be times when we would be in need, but she wouldn't ask for help. And she'd like, we'll just pray. But I'm like, girl, if you don't quit praying.
Let's pray. Close your eyes.
Right. I used to be looking at her like, I ain't praying no more.
Like, right.
And so just give you that context in terms of like my family background. Then when I got older and started having my own children and I was, ill-equipped, I'm young, I lacked resources, I lacked confidence. They cried, I cried. And so now I'm living in poverty because I'm back home with my mom after a failed relationship with their dad. And I felt like I was a real huge disappointment because if we were already struggling before I had children, then my mom opened the door, as she has always done, to let me and my 2 children to come back. And the only thing we got between the 2 of us is a pack of noodles. And I see the young man that I had kids by just rolling, down the street and with his rims and sounds. And I'm like, what happened? Like, how did I get here? And so one night I just said, I'm done. And I tried to end it all. And, trying to end my life, overdosed on pills, overdosed on alcohol. I was hospitalized. I had damaged my liver, my kidneys. I had messed up the lining of my stomach. I did quite a bit damage to my body that once they finally released me from the hospital, I'm thinking I'm going home. No, they sent me to the psychiatric ward, and I was like, hold fast.
Right.
Like, I'm a little off, but I ain't that like ain't no way we can get out of this.
Exactly.
Come on now. And so I was in the psychiatric ward, Wyman Gordon building in Harvey, Illinois, across street from Ingalls Hospital for almost 3 months.
Wow.
By the time I got out, I had lost 80 pounds because I refused to eat. I was just like, something got to give. And I'm like, oh, at least one good thing. I lost the baby fat. But at the same time, that was my first instance of restorative justice without me even really knowing it, because when I got home, it was like my whole family was there. My mom, my brother, their wives, my nieces, my nephews, my 2 children who didn't even recognize who I was. Like when I went to pick them up, they like, who's she? And I was off medication. They had me catatonic in the closet, so I couldn't even really show emotions. But I recall my oldest brother, Levert, who is really not big on telling people he loved them, that was my first time really hearing him say to me to face that he loved me and he was hurt. And I had to understand that the decisions I make don't just affect me.
It doesn't, yeah. And
so when you think about restorative justice, think about that in that instance right there. The harm was me trying to commit suicide. The harm was like, this wasn't just the suicide itself or the attempt to commit suicide. What is going on in your life that's so terrible that you felt like leaving the world was the only result? And so when I had to speak to like why, and I'm like, man, I had to, reflect and think about like, where did this all come from? It wasn't even when I started having children and postpartum depression. My mom raised me to stay out of alleys. I had a 9 p.m. curfew. I was 15 and I was hanging out with some people I had no business hanging out with. And in order to make it home for curfew, I had to go through the alley. As I was running through the alley along with 2 of my other best friends, I fell on some ice. When I went to get up, my left ankle partially detached from my leg. So to this day, I have 2 metal plates, 2 metal bolts, 2 metal screws, and the back heel of my left heel of my foot is all metal.
Wow.
Just from a simple fall. And so then that reminds me of how, I remember my mom and the saints in the church, like, you gonna see people do things. You ain't gonna be able to get away with it. And I'm like, I fell on some ice like anybody else.
Exactly.
I go to get up now, I'm bionic woman.
Right.
Like, what is going on? And so leading to your question, so I could give you the context in terms of how did I overcome. I had to really take a deep look at myself. And then the young lady that just called was my oldest daughter. If it wasn't for her saying, Mama, this ain't right. This ain't life. And you so pretty to me, but I don't think you pretty to yourself. Like, you don't even look in the mirror. When you come in the house, like, you dim the light so you don't even have to see certain things. You keep the shades closed. And she starts speaking life to me at the age of 5 or 6 or 7. And she was like, we living a life we really don't have to live.
Wow.
Did you not want to live so bad? Like, you didn't love me? And like, even to be more honest with you guys, my son turned 18 in October. He just graduated from Southland College Prep.
Shout out to your son. That's amazing.
GPA.
I know that's right.
Leaving for Xavier in Louisiana in the fall. And me and him had a strange relationship from the age of when he turned 15, because in his mind, I didn't love him because I showed more love to my girls, or because he wasn't into gym shoes and because he wasn't into sports and I was into gym shoes and sports. It was like, well, maybe we just don't have the relationship. And then when he read the book, and he couldn't necessarily give me like the tidbits in terms of how he felt about it, because when he read it, he said, as I read it in chronological order, it made it seem like you had me and then you wanted to die.
Oh, that's how he thought. Yeah.
So that's how he took it.
And it took up until, if you saw my post, I think it was maybe a week and a half ago, he said, Mom, I'm basically grown now. And out of respect, I would really love to have a conversation with you, along with my other siblings, which are my children, and my mom, which is his grandma. I need to know, was it me?
Wow.
And I had to speak to that. And so I'm saying all this because when most times women who are going through domestic violence, from what I've researched and from what I've lived, is that when you have a soul tie to somebody, or you feel like you have a soul tie to somebody because you share a child, in your mind, you feel like, I can't raise this child alone. Or you feel like, oh, I didn't have a 2-parent household. I didn't have the best thing. And so I don't mind taking a hit or two behind closed doors if that means in public we are putting on this persona like we're perfect.
Yeah.
That we showing up to the baseball games and, cheering our child on together, not knowing that I have a jacket on mainly because I'm bruised up. But when we start to learn to look and reflect on the decisions you make that just don't affect you, they affect your child. They affect the person who's abusing you. Because it could get to a point one day where that hit turns into a punch, and that punch turns into a stab, and that stab turns into someone dying.
Right.
So when you take a look at, it's so much more, life has so much more to offer. And a lot of times we set ourselves up for failure because we haven't experienced anything but dysfunction. And dysfunction has become our norm.
Yeah.
And so when dysfunction was your norm, until you get into a situation like, oh, you say you love your who? Oh, you really love your husband? Like, I just say it because I'm scared to say anything else.
Right.
And so when I start, the person who helped me realize that I was in a dysfunctional situation is the man I'm married to now. He became a real good friend of mine. He from down south, had that Southern hospitality. He's like, I don't like you. But I'm like, that ain't like, first of all, I don't like you neither. Exactly. He's like, I don't like you because I don't like the way you live in your life.
I see.
And
so everyone's seeing how you were carrying yourself.
But everybody was just like, just pray about it. When I met DJ, that's my husband's name, Mr. Jones, who like Jim Jones. I think y'all hear me. I think I got something for celebrity. Yes. Anyway, but he gave it to me in a raw. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't say we're gonna pray about it. He was like, gee, you are messed up out here. Like you smart as ever, but you just gonna die.
Yeah. And we need people like that in our lives to actually give us the truth and the honesty. Like you said, people sugarcoat, like, yeah, she'll be all right. You're all right.
Or just pray about it. Yes, definitely pray about it, but it needs to be more steps to it. Sometimes you need that conversation to have with somebody, but you don't need to have a conversation with somebody just like, yeah, you're right. No, tell me what I'm doing wrong, because maybe we can't even see it ourselves. We looking in the mirror and we think we cool, but then sometimes, like you said, your daughter saved you from the suicide. Carice had attempted. She had a failed suicide, and her son. What age was he?
4.
He's. What did he say to you? I think you were attempting to do it.
Yeah, and I was actually attempting to do it for the 3rd time, and we were just driving down the expressway. And just out the blue, he was just like, "Mommy, you know I love you. You know I need you, right?" I'm like, "This is a 4-year-old." Like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about, Princeton? Mommy, you're beautiful. I need you. I love you. And it was just like, wow. And it's like, that would be so selfish to take my life and leave my little one here, you know? So it's just, and we all get to that point where we're like, okay, God, I can't do it no more. Like, I'm tired. Everything you try to do, it don't work. And then I suffered through postpartum as well. So it was just like, I was feeling horrible. I was just like, nothing fits me. I would go in the room and try on clothes and just cry in the dressing room. And it was just like, everything was just, it felt like it was just falling down on me. So just to have my son, I think he was actually 3, and he actually said that, and I was just like, wow. It's like God, it was like a message from God. Like, this little one needs you. So where you going?
Right. And I think people need to realize too that suicide is real.
It is.
And it's becoming heavier and heavier every day. And it's almost becoming the norm. Like what Kate Spade, you think of, these are billionaires and millionaires, they're taking their lives, but this is real in our own community.
It is.
And some people might say, well, why would you take your life? It ain't that bad. You don't know what people are going through. There are things that people are going through behind closed doors and don't talk about. And to you, it might seem small, but this might be something that's affecting me badly. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, don't mock it. People used to mock Carice and say she thinks it's just like, why you think that's okay? But help them, talk to people, and then too, be careful who you talk to.
Yeah, you can't talk to everybody.
Did you have to go through therapy or anything?
I went through therapy. They was going back and forth with medication, to the point where my mom and my brothers were babysitting me because they was too afraid to leave me alone after that. And I felt some kind of way, but I should feel that way because you talking about, like I said, just the decision that I make affects everyone. And so you talking about people taking off work and modifying their schedule in life to be with me. And it made me feel like I'm grown.
Exactly.
Well, you're not acting grown. Right. Because, and the idea that no one shamed me about it. But at the same time, it came to a point where the medication was so high, it just had me so emotional. I would just sit there. People would be laughing. I'd be like, I don't know what's funny. And it made me uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to express that because under heavy medication, you just like, something up. I don't know what to tell you. And so I stopped taking it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is that a lot of the trials and tribulations that came along after that failed suicide attempt was based because I was not in my right frame of mind. I was diagnosed with being bipolar, having too many high highs, too many low lows, and no in between.
Wow.
And so not being medicated had me out here like I'm spending money. Like I don't want to spend money. I know I got bills. I was negligent. I was irresponsible. I was promiscuous. And there was a lot of things I was getting myself into because I wasn't seeking the right help that I need on a consistent basis.
All right. So we got another caller and we'll come back. So thank you for calling the Millen Twins Highlights Movement Show. Who are we speaking to?
You are speaking to Sanaa Jones, which is my mother's youngest daughter.
Oh, how are you?
Everybody calling in.
Yes. They're showing that love. Their love.
I know that's right. Support
what would you like to say to your mom?
I would like to say to her, she's a very strong woman, and I thank God every day for having her in my life because if she wasn't here, I don't know what I would do without her.
Oh, that's amazing. Tell us one thing that you learned from your mom.
One thing that I learned from my mom is that you always have to love each one another before you judge them by their cover.
I know that's right.
I know that's right. What else? You give me one more. One more thing you learned from your mom.
Her mantra is a journey not shared is the soul not healed. And I say, if you don't share your journey, then you never gonna be healed. You gotta tell somebody and express your feelings to the world and show them that you living your best life. And there's nothing else that you can do about it because you're having fun. And turn up.
Come on, baby. We're gonna have to come bring you on the show. The next Oprah. She is ready. I know that's right.
Well, we thank you for supporting your mom. We thank you guys for supporting her. You guys keep pushing her, keep promoting her. Look, you could be the little manager for her, huh?
I know, right?
Well, we thank you for calling. You guys keep listening, okay?
I am listening.
All right, girl. Talk to you later. So with writing your book, did you find, of course, you found healing. Did you find any of your other family members healing from it?
No.
challenges. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you guys watch Queen Sugar?
Yes, I love it.
I'm trying to catch it.
I'm like the male version of Nova.
Oh, see, I can't talk to you because
hold on. No, wait, not that's what I'm saying. I said the male version.
Okay,
that's the one everybody want to kill, right?
And that's how I feel because, but I felt like I did it the proper way.
Okay.
And see, a lot of times when I go to my family and they understand I'm bipolar, I have a lot of great ideas, but sometimes I'm like, it's just an idea. I'm not going to do anything with it. So when I talked about writing my book about my life, they were like, that's beautiful. Mind you, I wrote the book while I was in my doctoral program. And I did that because that was my way of, like, I don't have to cite anything. I don't have to, do a reference check. I don't have to do a lit review. This is my life. I write it how I want to write it because this is my truth. Mm-hmm. So that was my way of getting through my doctorate program. But at the same time, as I was writing the book, chapter by chapter, I was giving it to my mama. I was giving it to my husband. I was giving it to my kids. I was giving it to my brothers. I was giving it to close friends. Like, cause everybody gonna know this shit.
Exactly.
Right? And if I need to modify something, I understand. So let me know. Everybody was like, this is dope. Until it went on Amazon.
Oh Lord!
And so they didn't expect it to go to Amazon.
They didn't think it was going to be that, like, a little book. It's something about when people say
for the
little,
family,
like with your little job or
right,
your little anything.
Exactly.
Like, okay, I see y'all trying to play me,
right?
And they loved me, but then was like, you was for real.
Wow.
They didn't take you serious,
and it was to the point where my mom and I did not talk for maybe a whole year.
Oh no!
Because in her mind, it was like that was just way too much. And then there was some things that she read that she had questions about, but she didn't ask the questions. So I'm thinking we all good.
Because you gave it to him in the beginning.
But what I will say from that, we've been able to reconcile our differences and we've been closer than ever. On top of that, my mom ended up writing a book about her life.
Wow. So you was an inspiration to mommy.
Yep. She wrote a memoir. I can't even think of the name of. We done wrote so many books now. It's called Before I Go, Let Me Set the Record Straight.
Wow,
that's deep.
And the picture is a picture of her when she married her first husband. And her, bride, her gown, everything. And since she wrote the book, I can share this part. She talks about how she had her first two children, which is Lavert and Roderick, who we don't look at each other like that's my half brother. No, those are my brothers. And so she met her husband back when she migrated from Mississippi and came here to Chicago, met him, high yellow, tall. She's dark skinned. We could talk about colorism when it comes down to that because people are like, how is this fine, light skinned man? She pretty. She pretty for a dark skinned girl type of situation, right? They get married. They have two beautiful children. They both work in great jobs. They got their own home. All these great things. The American dream, right? Yeah. He dies. He dies from kidney failure.
Wow.
As she's grieving, she didn't have enough time to take off work. She worked for the post office. So she still had to end up going back to work. That's how she met my father. My father's a total opposite of the love of her life that died. Mm-hmm. And in that grieving process, he somewhat came along and saw a damsel in distress. And this is no shade. My father passed away, but this is just the truth, right? Mm-hmm. And so they get together. But in her eyes, it was more like just a friendship. Well, what ended up happening, he took her one night and wouldn't bring her home until he had his way with her.
Wow.
And my mom was raped by my dad. I didn't learn that until recently when she wrote the book. Like we were having this, I'm the one typed the book up for us. As I'm typing, I'm like, oh, fast.
Like, wait a minute.
Hey, Ma, real quick. On page 42.
Is this facts or
what we doing here?
Right. Wow.
And the thing about that is, and if you remember when we first started having this conversation, the worst thing a mom can do is not share her story with her children. Because what ended up happening in my own life, with the child that just called on his phone, she's a result of rape.
So generational curse.
Yeah. It was about, and so, I mean, the flip side of that is we're here, right? And we're living, and we're not basing our lives off of what we've been through. Because if that was the case, we might as well all just leave this place.
Exactly.
But how can we grow and how can we develop? And what are the gems that we could share with the world? Because we need more people that's going to be able to speak about their journey. Because I'm not the only one that's happened to.
Exactly.
It didn't just happen to my mom. It happens more often than people want to share because, like, it's a shame. It's just shameful.
Mm-hmm.
And how would people perceive me? But when you get to a point in your life, when you live in your life the way you're supposed to live, the way God has intended for you to live, and the calling that you have in your life and the gift that he give you, you don't have a choice.
Right, definitely. And it's funny, not funny, but when we had our first it was called a Creative Closet for Domestic Violence Survivors, and it was our first event. The Millen twins and I Am You Are Perfectly Imperfect. Shout out to our business group. But it was a domestic violence event, over 250 people, and we had people on panels who, for the first time, told their stories. So my sister and I going into this because, we knew people who were going into it, but still kind of ashamed or afraid to tell their stories. And literally after that one event, people were flowing in emails. I'm going through the same thing. How do I get out? And it's like, you're not alone. You're not alone. And we're human. You're going to feel ashamed. You're going to feel embarrassed. So my question is, when these certain things happen to you, if you would like to answer, and when these things happen to you, did you immediately go tell someone? Did it take you a while, or you waited? How was that?
It was crazy because the first time I got hit, it was more like, you lying. I swear you won't do it again.
Right.
You do it again, I'm gonna knock you out. Then it became like, no, I'm not. Like, it happened again. Like, oh, you for real? I mean, you for real each time you do it. But I think it's a matter of like, okay, let me just give him a fair chance. Because what I realized, reflecting on our situation, that's with my first husband. I was broken, he was broken, and now we both victims, and now we trying to figure out who's been victimized the most.
Right.
Oh, I went through this. Yeah, I went through something like that too. And then he had an addiction that I didn't know about, because in my mind, when you think about somebody else addicted to drugs, they look a certain way, like they look shabby, or they not clean cut. I mean, he had all his teeth, like he looked good, smelled good. I'm like, so how did this happen? And then I think the shame for me was more of, I wasn't raised in a household around gangbangers and drugs and things. My brothers, got great credit and, been with one woman majority of their lives, none of these little hood stuff that you typically hear about. And that's no knock, no shade or anything to anything of that. But I never experienced that. So I'm not about to say Shaniqua was married to a crackhead.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, well, maybe it'll get better. Well, I'll just work a second job. So now I'm become his enabler. And long as it's just me knowing about what's going on, as long as the kids ain't really saying nothing, just because they didn't say nothing don't mean they didn't see what was going on. Because I learned later on down the line, they saw a lot of things that I didn't even know they saw. And so because he was addicted to drugs, that took over his whole life. Yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I'd rather go through this abuse than to raise these children by myself. Because he don't hit the kids. I'll take the hits as long as he don't do anything to them.
So you found yourself making excuses.
I justified, I enabled, I played my part in that, and that's the biggest thing I'm willing to admit, like the accountability piece. I know what part I played. And on top of that, when he would hit me, I would hurt him with words, because there were things that he shared with me that he has never shared with anybody else. So when he hit me, I used what he said to me against him, which make that situation even more worse, right? And so it just got to a point where I couldn't hide the scars anymore. Like, I don't care how much I don't wear makeup, I wear Carmex. Right? And so it's like, okay, I can't keep doing this. And now it's messing with my livelihood and it's messing with my money, because if he done hit, I done been hospitalized all night. I can't get up and get to work on time. And it's not just about enabling him. I can't provide for my children. And so that's when I got to a point where I was like, okay, let me figure this thing out. And I went to my mom. And the first time it happened, I went to my mom. She said, okay, just leave. But then when he cleaned his act up, I'm like, he's good now. I'm going back. And we had the cycle. Like, every time he got clean, looking back his old self again, I went right back to the same dysfunction. Until the last and final time when my daughter was like, this can't be life.
Right.
And so, I mean, my circle, my family has always been supportive. Even then when they didn't agree with the things I did, my mother could have always closed the door. Like, girl, I'm getting too old for this. It is what it is. Yeah. But she always had an open door policy.
Wow.
And so I really like shout out to Evangelist Odia B. Anderson. I'm pretty sure I bought her an iPad, y'all. I'm surprised she ain't FaceTime me, but it's so funny. Real quick, when she FaceTime you, she be like this close.
Oh,
like,
Lord.
I can
School
see
back,
you.
mommy.
like I see your nose hairs, like move around.
School back.
Yeah,
but I like how I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I like how you said that your kids seen this. You didn't know. You thought you were protecting them from it, but they seen this. And we as people have to realize kids see everything. We don't think they're paying attention. They see, they hear. Because especially my nephew Prince, I'd be like, boy, like, why are you in my business? But they hear it.
Hear everything.
And we don't think they're paying attention when they're on their iPad or on the phone, but they see everything. So it's kind of when you're going through situations, and of course it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but we have to also realize we don't think they hear it, but they hear it, so it's protecting them. So it's one person that's watching who's going through this. What would you say to them in 1 minute?
In 1 minute, I really want you to take a opportunity to think about when you were a child and you had these goals and aspirations of what you wanted to do when you grow up. And because you're going through, you probably feel depleted. You probably feel like this is it and this is what life is all about. But if you just give God a chance, he'll turn it around. We live a life believing that we make decisions on our own. And when you make the decision that you want your life to be a certain way, sometimes it don't go that way because you haven't given it over to Christ. And you've tried everything. You tried men, you tried women, you tried drugs, you tried alcohol, you tried clothes, you tried masking it with jobs, you tried masking it through social media, you tried everything but God. So if you have the opportunity, I just want to pray with you and pray for you that whatever you're going through, whether it's the suicide ideations, whether it's the idea that you've been raped before, that you may have been molested, sexually assaulted, you may have been homeless, you may have gone through some of everything and you feel like you're the only one going through. But I promise you, if you can just look at the testament of my own life, that I don't care what it is, how long it may have been, you just give it over to him. And it doesn't have to be a long, extended prayer. It doesn't have to be something where you have to quote scriptures, but all you have to do is say, God, forgive me and God, save me, and I give it to you.
Come on. I know that's right. Would you still going? I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Keep going.
I'm good.
Look, past the offering basket.
Yes.
I'm over here like,
Cash
out.
Crystal Millen.
Crystal Millen. That was
But
amazing.
we appreciate you being here. How can people find you? How can they find your books? What is your social media?
I got you.
Plug yourself.
Website, everything.
Website, ShaniquaJones.com. That's www.ShaniquaJones.com. I'm on Instagram as Dr. Shan Jones 2016. I'm on Facebook as the same Dr. Shan Jones 2016. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. We got Twitter. I'm on Twitter as Shan_Jones 0808. You can always reach me via email, DRSHANJONES2016
Before we go, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Ooh. And that's when my life started changing.
Wow.
Them boys ain't loyal.
Them boys ain't loyal.
Oh, yeah. That was I went boy crazy. Because real quick, I was wearing the big thick glasses. I was getting teased because they said I could see the future. All type of stuff. I had a lot of hair, but it was coarse. And so some of the saints was like, Evangelist Anderson, you have to let up a little bit. So I got some contacts, y'all. I didn't just get any contacts. I got some blue
color.
gray contacts.
Right, with the colors.
Do they still got them colors?
Yeah,
they
at
still
the gas station. I got my first perm. It was so crazy because the day, it was like an overnight transformation. Get on the bus to go to school the next day, and one of the boys was like, "Hey, who the new girl?" I was like, "It's me."
You was excited.
And they was like, "Quack quack." I was like, "Yeah." Like got me in a whole lot of trouble. So I would definitely tell my 15-year-old self, the boys ain't loyal. You probably can't see God, but you can feel him. And if he brought you through, like even before 15, I told you about the ankle. If it weren't for him, like I was told I would be an amputee, and I'm not. Mm-hmm. So, that whole idea, like I know he's real, and I've seen certain situations that happen, like when nobody believed this, and so I knew he was always real. I was just being rebellious. And if I ever had the chance to just sit down and stop listening to the crowd and listen to his voice, I'd have been fine.
Mm-mm. So you guys, we've been listening to Dr. Shaniqua Jones. We appreciate you for being here. We appreciate you for sharing your story and being so transparent. We appreciate your babies calling in. Shout out to the babies.
And if someone's out there that's listening or watching, if you're going through something similar to what Dr. Jones have gone through, or somebody who's going through it, don't be afraid to reach out, because I'm sure she'll reach right back out to you all.
Sure,
you're not the only one going through anything, and
always be out there to talk. Living testimony.
Yes,
right here. But we're proud of you. We thank God that you say yes to your purpose so that you can continue to help people around the world. So we see you. We see you. Yes. And we're proud of you. We love you. And we're going to have you back on the show. Okay.
We have more to talk about.
A lot to talk about.
I'm about to talk. Look, we talk about anything.
Right.
So you some tea.
Right. So you guys have a great weekend. Make sure you guys follow Dr. Jones on all her social media. We will tag her above. Enjoy the weather.
I will love you